The set of The View was already electric. Cameras were rolling, and the usual banter of the hosts filled the studio air. But today, something was different. The tension was palpable, thicker than it had ever been before. The audience, normally buzzing with enthusiasm, could feel the storm brewing just beneath the surface. Whoopi Goldberg, usually the calm anchor in a sea of diverse opinions, was on edge. She sat at the center, her expression tight, her lips pressed into a firm line. She could sense it coming. The pressure, the criticism, the inevitable clash that had been brewing for months. And then, like a thunderclap, it came. Joe Rogan and Megyn Kelly, two media titans known for their fiery personalities, had just been invited to discuss their views on free speech, cancel culture, and the role of media in shaping public opinion. The cameras were set up for a live segment that was sure to stir controversy. But no one expected the explosion that was about to unfold. "Let's talk about The View." Rogan's voice boomed through the studio, his tone deliberately pointed. "You all sit on that high pedestal, pretending to be the moral compass for America, but how many times have I seen you tear people apart for having a different opinion? You censor voices you don't like, and act like it's some kind of public service." A tense silence fell over the room. Whoopi's eyes narrowed, the weight of his words landing hard. She had been on the receiving end of criticism for years, but this was personal. This wasn't just an outsider pointing fingers, it was a direct attack on the very essence of the show she had helped build. A show that was supposed to celebrate diverse viewpoints, not shut them down. "That's a little rich coming from you, Joe," Megyn Kelly jumped in, her sharp gaze never leaving the camera. "You sit on your podcast and spread conspiracy theories, entertain controversial figures, and then act like you're some kind of martyr for free speech. It's easy to throw stones when you don't have to deal with the consequences of your words." Whoopi took a deep breath. The words stung, but she wasn't going to back down. Not in front of a live audience. Not after everything The View had fought for. She leaned forward, the intensity in her eyes unmistakable. "Let me tell you something, Megyn," she said, her voice steady, though her hands gripped the edge of the table. "We've had people come on this show from all walks of life, people with opinions you wouldn't agree with. But we've always given them the space to speak. What we won't do is sit by and let people spread misinformation and hate under the guise of free speech. That's not a right, that's a weapon. And I'll be damned if I stand by and let you turn that weapon into something we all should just accept." The room was electric now, the audience sitting on the edge of their seats, waiting for the next move. It was rare for Whoopi to get this emotional. This was the Whoopi that had weathered years of public scrutiny, the Whoopi who had faced down controversy and criticism without breaking a sweat. But this time, it was different. The stakes were higher. The conversation had shifted from debating political ideologies to questioning the very fabric of media responsibility. Megyn Kelly's eyes widened. She had expected resistance, but not like this. She leaned in, but before she could speak, Joe Rogan interjected. "Whoa, Whoopi," he said, a grin pulling at the corner of his mouth. "No one's saying we should stop people from having their own opinions. But we can't pretend that the media doesn't have a bigger responsibility here. You want to talk about misinformation? Let's talk about how the mainstream media has been just as guilty of spreading narratives that fit a particular agenda. You want to hold people accountable for misinformation? Start with yourselves." For a moment, the entire room was silent. It felt like the weight of the world had descended on Whoopi. Her face softened, and the anger in her chest started to shift into something else, something deeper, something more painful. She had been in the industry long enough to know the cost of being in the spotlight. She had seen the media twist and turn, using her own image and words against her. But that wasn't her fight today. Today, it was about standing up for the values she believed in. "Here's the thing," Whoopi said, her voice quieter now, but more powerful than ever. "I don't expect everyone to agree with me, and I don't expect The View to be the end-all, be-all of truth. But what I won't stand for is a world where we're so busy tearing each other down, where we're so focused on proving who's right and who's wrong, that we forget to listen. Real listening, not just to the voices that agree with us, but to the ones that challenge us, that make us uncomfortable. That's where real change happens. That's where the truth lies." The studio was still. Rogan's smile faded. Megyn Kelly's expression softened, though her eyes still held a challenge. The energy in the room shifted. For a moment, everyone seemed to take a collective breath. It wasn't about right or wrong. It wasn't about winning or losing. It was about something more fundamental. The responsibility to listen, to engage, and to grow. Whoopi stood up, her movements deliberate. I won't back down from that. Not for you, not for anyone. And I'll keep fighting to make sure the voices that need to be heard, those that are silenced by fear, by misinformation, by hate, are given space to speak. That's the real power of free speech. The crowd erupted into applause, but Whoopi didn't wait to see the reaction. She had said her piece. And in that moment, the cameras caught something no one had expected. A moment of mutual respect, not agreement, but understanding, from people who, on the surface, seemed so far apart. As the segment wrapped up, the audience felt the weight of the conversation linger in the air. The View had always been about diverse opinions, sometimes fiery, sometimes soft, but always real. And as Whoopi Goldberg stood tall, unbowed and unapologetic, it was clear that the power of true discourse was far more important than any momentary victory or defeat. The fight wasn't over, but for the first time, the conversation felt like it had shifted. And in a world where division seemed to be the default, that was a small victory in itself. It's easy to get lost in the noise of today's media landscape, where sensationalism often takes precedence over truth. But stories like this remind us of the importance of standing firm in what we believe, of being willing to listen, even when we don't agree, and of having the courage to speak out for what's right, even when it's hard. The View may have been rocked, but in the end, the message was clear. True power lies in empathy, in the willingness to learn, and in the courage to keep fighting for what we know is right.